All right, so get this for today's deep dive. You guys send us something totally different.
Oh,
We're not looking at a finished novel or even like an outline,
okay.
but character profiles from a slasher novel draft.
Interesting.
Talk about getting a sneak peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
It's like we're right there in the writer's workshop,
Uh-huh.
helping them brainstorm.
Yeah, it's fascinating because we're dealing with pure potential here. We have these character sketches,
Yeah.
Mia Miller, David Carter, Father Michael, and Sarah Jones,
Okay.
but no real plot details.
Gotcha.
It's like having all the ingredients for a killer dish,
Yeah.
but no recipe just yet.
Okay, so no spoilers on who gets sliced and diced.
Right.
But we get to analyze these potential victims, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What stands out to you from the jump?
Well, the first thing that strikes me is the variety in these characters.
Okay.
We've got Mia, who's described as this rebellious 22-year-old, yearning for freedom after a strict religious upbringing.
Oh.
That immediately makes me think about the classic final girl trope in slasher films. You know, the resourceful one who often survives until the end.
Yeah.
Could Mia be our final girl, or is that too predictable?
Ooh, good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to fall into those classic tropes.
Yeah.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
Let's break down each character.
Okay.
Starting with Mia.
All right.
Her profile mentions she's questioning her beliefs and trying to stand up for herself.
Uh-huh.
It seems like there's more to her rebellion than just teenage angst.
Absolutely.
Like,
there's a potential for some really interesting internal conflict here.
yeah.
On one hand, she's craving freedom and independence.
Yeah.
But on the other, she's grappling with the deeply ingrained beliefs from her upbringing.
Right.
Add to that the fact that she's having these unsettling visions.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got a recipe for a complex character struggling with both inner demons and external threats.
Whoa. Yeah, I hadn't even factored in the visions yet. That definitely adds another layer to her potential arc.
Right.
It makes me wonder, will her desire for freedom make her reckless? Or will these visions make her more cautious?
That's the beauty of it. We don't know yet.
True.
But it's definitely something for the writer to consider.
Yeah.
How do these visions impact her rebellion?
Right.
Do they push her further away from her religious background?
Yeah.
Or do they force her to confront those beliefs in a new light?
Interesting.
There's a lot to unpack there.
All right, so we've got Mia, potentially our final girl,
Potentially.
battling internal conflict and creepy visions. Who's next on our list of potential victims?
Let's move on to David Carter.
Okay.
Now, he's a bit of a wild card.
All right.
He's 24, comes from a wealthy family, but there's this underlying insecurity driving him.
Okay.
The profile even mentions he goes down a dangerous path.
Okay. Rich kid with something to prove is a classic archetype.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what could make David's story stand out?
Right.
What kind of dangerous path are we talking about?
Well, that's where the writer needs to get specific.
Okay.
Is he rebelling against his privileged upbringing?
Yeah.
Is he trying to escape the expectations that come with wealth?
Oh.
Or is there something darker at play?
Ooh.
Maybe he's seeking power or validation in dangerous ways.
Ooh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's easy to just label him as the troubled rich kid.
Right.
But there needs to be a deeper motivation behind his actions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that makes his dangerous path unique and compelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about his moral compass.
Okay.
Is it twisted,
Uh-huh.
broken,
Yeah.
or maybe it's just pointing him in a direction that society deems dangerous?
Right.
That's where the real intrigue lies.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
So far, we've got a potential final girl with some serious baggage and a rich kid teetering on the edge of something dangerous. This is already shaping up to be one intense slasher story. Who's up next?
Well, let's talk about Father Michael. Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
We have a priest, a figure often associated with morality and guidance,
Right.
thrown into the chaotic world of a slasher film.
Yeah, talk about a clash of archetypes.
Yeah.
You don't often see a man of the cloth facing off against a masked killer.
Right.
What kind of character could Father Michael be in this context?
Oh. His profile mentions fears and desires that hint at some real depth.
Okay.
He's worried about losing his faith, about failing his congregation,
Right.
and even expresses a longing for love.
Interesting.
This suggests he's not just a one-dimensional symbol of good or evil,
Right.
but a complex individual wrestling with his own internal struggles.
It's like, is he going to be the voice of reason, offering solace and support to the other characters? Or will he crumble under the pressure, his faith shattered by the violence unfolding around him?
I'm leaning towards the latter. I
Yeah.
think the most compelling approach would be to show Father Michael's faith being tested. How does he reconcile his beliefs with the brutality of the slasher's actions?
Yeah.
Does he cling to his faith as a lifeline?
Right.
Or does it begin to unravel, revealing a darker side to his character?
Oh, man. That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's not just about him being a good guy or a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's about how this extreme situation challenges his core beliefs that adds a whole new layer of psychological tension to the story.
Precisely. And remember,
Yeah.
we only have character profiles,
Right.
not a complete plot.
Yeah.
So we're free to speculate.
I like that.
Could Father Michael even become the killer himself, driven to madness by the darkness he encounters?
Okay, hold on. A priest turned killer. That's a twist I didn't see coming.
Right.
But I have to admit, it's a pretty intriguing concept.
Yeah.
It definitely plays into those classic horror themes of good versus evil and the blurring of those lines.
Exactly. And it highlights how the slasher genre can be a vehicle for exploring deeper themes.
Yeah.
It's not just about blood and gore.
Yeah.
It's about pushing characters to their limits,
Yeah.
forcing them to confront their deepest fears and desires.
All right, so we've got Mia, David, and Father Michael,
Yes.
each with their own unique set of challenges and potential for growth
Yeah.
or downfall.
Right.
But we can't forget about Sarah Jones.
Of course not.
She's the one you initially pegged as a possible final girl, right?
Yes, Sarah, our fun-loving, carefree 23-year-old.
Yeah.
On the surface, she seems to fit the classic final girl mold.
Okay.
She's described as outgoing, optimistic, and someone who brings light to any situation.
Right, right.
But you also mentioned that her carefree attitude could be a weakness in a slasher scenario.
Yeah. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Absolutely. While Sarah's positivity might be a strength in everyday life, it could lead to underestimating the threat in a horror movie.
I see.
She might not take the danger seriously enough,
Right.
making her an easy target for the killer.
I see what you mean. Like, she might be the one who wanders off alone or dismisses the creepy warnings that everyone else is heeding.
Exactly. Or
Right.
her optimism could be a powerful tool for survival.
Oh, okay.
Maybe she's the one who keeps the group's spirits up,
Mm-hmm.
helping them find moments of joy even in the midst of terror. Or perhaps she uses her charm and wit to outsmart the killer.
Okay.
It all depends on how the writer chooses to develop her character.
Okay, so Sarah's got this duality to her.
Yeah.
She could be either naive and vulnerable
Right.
or surprisingly resilient.
Exactly.
It's almost like the writer is giving us two potential paths for her character.
That's an insightful observation.
Thanks.
And it speaks to the importance of understanding not just a character's personality traits,
Right?
but also their potential for growth and change.
Hmm.
How will Sarah react when faced with the horrors of the slasher's attacks?
Right.
Will she rise to the occasion, proving her strength lies in her spirit? Or will she crumble, revealing a hidden vulnerability beneath her cheerful exterior?
That's what makes this whole process so fascinating.
Yeah.
We're not just analyzing static characters.
Right.
We're considering their potential, their capacity to surprise us.
Precisely. And that's where the true skill of a writer comes in.
Yeah.
Creating characters who feel real, who have the potential to both embrace and defy our expectations.
You know, speaking of surprises,
Yeah.
there's that little snippet we have from the draft
Uh-huh.
where Mia falls into a game.
Right.
I'm dying to know what that's all about.
Yeah.
Could that be the key to the slasher's motive?
That's a great question.
What is that?
While we can't delve too deep into plot specifics,
Yeah.
since we only have character profiles to work with,
Right.
I think it's worth considering how this game might connect to our understanding of Mia.
Yeah. I mean, is it a literal game? A psychological game?
Mm-hmm.
A supernatural game?
Right.
Such a vague detail.
Yeah.
But it definitely adds to the mystery.
It does indeed, and it makes me wonder if Mia's visions are somehow connected to this game.
Oh, interesting.
Could she be a pawn in a larger scheme manipulated by forces beyond her understanding? Or perhaps she's the one who holds the key to unraveling the mystery.
Now that you mention it,
Yeah.
Mia's visions could be a major plot point. They could be warnings,
Right.
premonitions,
Yeah.
or even a connection to the supernatural.
That's right.
It really opens up a lot of possibilities.
It certainly does, and it reinforces the idea that even with limited information, we can still glean a lot about a story's potential from its characters, their traits, their fears, their desires. These are all clues that can help us anticipate the twists and turns the narrative might take.
All right, so we've dissected each character individually.
We have.
But I'm curious, what do you think the writer is trying to say about these characters as a group? Is there a common thread or theme that connects them?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And it's one we can only speculate on without knowing the full story.
Yeah.
But if we look at these characters collectively, I see a recurring theme of facing one's fears
Okay.
and challenging societal expectations.
Okay.
Mia's rebelling against her religious upbringing. David's struggling with the burden of his privilege.
Right.
Father Michael's wrestling with his faith.
Yeah.
And Sarah's potentially defying the helpless victim trope.
Right.
They're all in their own ways pushing back against the confines of their circumstances.
You know, you're right. It's like they're each on a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Even though it's happening within this terrifying slasher context.
Precisely. And that's where the real depth and resonance of a good slasher story can be found.
Yeah.
In the way it uses horror to explore the complexities of the human experience.
I'm already hooked and we haven't even gotten to the actual plot yet.
That's the power of compelling characters, wouldn't you say?
I think so for sure.
They draw you in.
Make you invested in their fates,
Uh-huh.
even before the blood starts to spill.
Absolutely. And speaking of fates,
Yes.
we still haven't figured out who might be the final girl,
Right.
or even if there is one.
Well, maybe we don't need to.
Okay.
Maybe this story subverts our expectations altogether.
Interesting.
Perhaps it's not about who survives,
Right.
but about how these characters are transformed by their experiences.
Oh, I like that slasher story. That's more about character development than body count. That's a refreshing take.
Indeed, it reminds us that even within a genre as well-trodden as the slasher,
Yeah.
there's always room for innovation and exploration of deeper themes.
It's amazing how much we can already glean from just these character profiles.
It really is.
It makes you realize how important character development is, even in the early stages of writing.
Absolutely. And it's not just about crafting likable characters.
Right.
It's about creating characters who are believable,
Yeah.
relatable,
Yeah.
and most importantly, capable of surprising us. I'm also curious from a writer's perspective.
Yeah.
What are some of the pitfalls to avoid with these characters?
Oh.
Like what could make them fall flat or feel cliche?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
With Mia, the biggest trap would be to make her rebellion one-dimensional.
Okay.
We need to understand the nuances of her struggle.
Mhm.
Is it purely about rejecting her religious upbringing?
Right.
Or is there a deeper, more personal yearning for autonomy?
Hmm.
How do her visions contribute to her feelings of isolation and her desire to break free?
Right.
The writer needs to give us more than just angry teenager to make her compelling.
Yeah. Teenagers are complex creatures, even without the added pressure of spooky visions.
Right. What about David? What kind of cliches should the writer steer clear of with his character?
With David, the danger is falling into the spoiled rich kid stereotype. We've seen that before.
Yeah.
The entitled character who acts out because they've never faced real consequences to make David truly engaging.
The writer needs to dig deeper into his insecurities and motivations.
Okay.
Is he seeking validation?
Right.
Or is he trying to escape the suffocating expectations of his wealthy background? Maybe he's genuinely searching for purpose and meaning, but going about it in all the wrong ways.
I see what you mean. He could be lashing out,
Uh-huh.
or he could be desperately trying to break free from a life that feels predetermined.
Yeah.
It's all about finding those subtle layers that make him more than just a caricature.
Exactly. And then there's Father Michael.
Okay.
The obvious pitfall is portraying him as either a saintly figure who's immune to the darkness or a caricature of an evil priest.
Right.
The real intrigue lies in the gray areas,
Yeah.
in the struggle to reconcile faith with the horrors of the slasher's actions.
Right.
Will he become a source of strength for the others?
Yeah.
Or will his beliefs crumble under the pressure,
Hmm.
revealing a darker side to his nature?
Ooh, yeah. The idea of a priest grappling with doubt and temptation in the face of pure evil.
Right.
That's where the real psychological horror comes in.
Absolutely.
It's a classic struggle that resonates even outside of the slasher genre.
Precisely. And finally, there's Sarah.
Okay.
The writer needs to avoid making her just a fun character.
Right.
She needs depth, internal conflict,
Yeah.
and motivations that go beyond being the life of the party.
Right. Like maybe her carefree attitude is a defense mechanism, a way to cope with deeper insecurities.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a genuine expression of her strength, allowing her to find hope even in the darkest situations.
Right.
Either way, she needs to be more than just a bubbly personality.
I couldn't agree more. She needs to feel like a fully realized person with agency,
Yeah.
not just a plot device.
So for all you aspiring writers out there,
Yes.
take note.
That's right.
Compelling characters need layers, internal conflicts, and motivations that go beyond the obvious.
Absolutely.
They need to surprise us, challenge our assumptions, and make us question our own perceptions.
Well said. And for our listener who requested this deep dive, I hope we've shed some light on the complexities of character development.
I think so.
Even without a fully formed plot,
Right.
these character profiles offer a fascinating glimpse into the writer's vision and the potential for a truly gripping slasher story.
You know, it's amazing how these profiles have sparked so much discussion and speculation.
It really is.
It just goes to show that a good character can captivate you,
Yeah.
even before the plot kicks in.
That's the magic of character-driven storytelling.
For sure.
The plot provides the framework, but it's the characters who breathe life into the narrative.
So to wrap things up, dear listener,
Yes.
I have a challenge for you.
Okay.
If you were writing this slasher story, what direction would you take these characters?
Right.
What twists and turns would you throw their way?
Yeah.
Let your imagination run wild.
And remember, the most compelling slasher stories are more than just blood and gore. They're about exploring the dark side of human nature. The choices we make when confronted with fear and despair.
It's been a thrill dissecting these characters with you today.
Likewise.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.